whispering wind. Twice upon the times, on a small yet fascinating farm, very, very far away, the air on this winter night was absolutely frigid. The fullest moon one could ever lay eyes on lit up the sky for miles. Under the moonlit sky, in the smallest boring room you could imagine, lay 9-year-old twin boys in twin beds. John and Jacob, both partially asleep from tossing and turning underneath the blankets they were lying under, and hearing a loud bang, bang, bang outside. Both twins' eyes open as wide as their eyelids would let them. Bang, bang, bang. John immediately ditched his covers and his bed and headed straight towards Jacob's bed. Breathing heavily, heart pounding, and full of panic, they both pulled the blankets over their heads, gathering enough courage to ask each other, what in the tarnation was that? Not knowing what could have made that horrible sound, John uttered, "Let's find out." Jacob said, "Are you crazy? You can find out, but I'm staying right here by myself." John's sarcasm got the best of him as he said, "Right, stay there, all by yourself." Jacob realized he would be better off investigating those loud bangs with his brother. So they eased out of bed, got dressed, started on their way to the front of the house. Tiptoeing past their parents' room, Jacob grabs John's coat and mumbled, "What if Mom and Dad wakes up? We can get into a lot of trouble." But curious John said, "We won't be long. We'll just take a peek and come right back." "Promise?" said Jacob. Then John stuck out his pinky and said, "Promise." The two set outside to find out what was making that awful noise when bang, 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 bang again. Using a flashlight they borrowed from the kitchen, they stood on the porch and shined towards the crop fields, only to see those big old oak trees rustling back and forth. Jacob asked John, "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" asked John. "The wind," said Jacob. "It sounds like it's whispering." John had to gather himself and be strong for his scary brother. But he also heard the whispers too. "Okay, let's keep going until we find out what that loud noise was," said John. After several minutes of creeping around the farm, plus fighting the chill nighttime air and not finding much of anything, they both decided to turn around and go back home until they both heard the whispers behind them. Turning around frantically, pointing the trembling flashlight toward the whispers, all they saw were trees rustling from side to side. The whispers started again, this time to the left of them, back toward the house. So they pointed the flashlight in the direction but saw nothing. Now the boys are paralyzed with fear because they are out in the open and they don't know exactly what it is they're afraid of. Bang, bang, bang. The two twin boys started running toward the fields until they saw a dim light in the distance. They stopped, knelt down to try to hide from the light. "What's that?" they both asked, wanting to get a closer look. They inched closer and closer and closer to the light, while holding on to each other for dear life. As the light got closer, "Hello, boys," falling to the ground and clutching their chests. The two confused, frightened, and stunned little boys looked up to find Mr. Johnson from the farm down the street holding his lantern over them with his stretched out hands to help them up. "What are you two young'uns doing out here this time of night?" John responded. They heard a loud banging and whispers in the night air, and they wanted to know where it was coming from. "Hee," laughed Mr. Johnson. "I heard it too. Come to find out, it was a board on the side of my barn. Dang whispering winds almost worked it plumb loose. I managed to nail it down. Dang thing would have kept me up all night. Oh well, best be getting home. I got a big day tomorrow at the sale barn." "Well, you two ought to be getting home along as well. I wouldn't want your parents to wake up and catch you gone, you know. Might give them a big scare. Well, good night, boys," Mr. Johnson said to the relieved little boys. Jacob said, "I'm glad that is over," and they both began running to their home, but John dropped the flashlight. John stopped and turned around to get it, only to see Mr. Johnson floating away in the air with his lantern, talking with the wind. Mr. Johnson turned around quickly and saw John, winked his eye, and whispered, "Shh." The end.